Have you ever heard of the secret war in Laos? It's a conflict that ran parallel to the Vietnam War. Yet for decades, it remained almost entirely unknown to the public. This wasn't just a small skirmish. It was a massive, covert operation that profoundly shaped the history of an entire nation. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on one of the most hidden chapters of the Cold War. So, how did this all start? To understand the secret war, we need to go back to the 1950s. After the First Indochina War, the Geneva Accords of 1954 were supposed to establish Laos as a neutral, independent country. But in the chess game of the Cold War, neutrality was a fragile concept. North Vietnam, backed by the Soviet Union and China, was determined to support communist insurgents in South Vietnam. To do this, they needed a supply line, and that line ran right through Laos. This network of trails became famously known as the Ho Chi Minh Trail. The United States, deeply committed to its policy of containing communism, couldn't just stand by and watch. However, the Geneva Accords prevented them from sending regular military forces into Laos. So, what did they do? They turned to the Central Intelligence Agency, the CIA. This is where the secret part of the war truly begins. The CIA was tasked with a clandestine mission to disrupt the Ho Chi Minh Trail and prevent the communist Pathet Lao, who were allied with North Vietnam, from taking over the country. Instead of deploying American soldiers, the CIA armed and trained local anti-communist forces. Their primary allies were the Royal Lao government and, most significantly, the Hmong people, an ethnic minority living in the mountainous regions of northern Laos. Under the leadership of a charismatic general named Vang Pao, the Hmong became the backbone of the CIA's secret army. For them, this wasn't just about fighting communism. It was about protecting their homes, their culture, and their way of life from outside forces. The scale of this secret operation was staggering. The CIA established a front company, Air America, which appeared to be a simple commercial airline. In reality, it was one of the largest and most sophisticated paramilitary air forces in the world. Its pilots, often veterans of World War II and the Korean War, flew thousands of covert missions. They dropped supplies to Hmong fighters, transported troops, rescued downed pilots, and conducted reconnaissance missions deep in enemy territory. The pilots of Air America were true daredevils, flying in treacherous mountain terrain, often under heavy fire, with no official recognition from their own government. The war in Laos was primarily an air war. From 1964 to 1973, the US conducted a relentless bombing campaign, dropping more than 2 million tons of ordnance on the country. To put that into perspective, that's more bombs than were dropped on Germany and Japan combined during all of World War II. The goal was to obliterate the Ho Chi Minh Trail and cripple the Pathet Lao's ability to fight. For the people on the ground, life became a nightmare. The constant threat of bombing forced entire villages to move into caves, living underground to survive. They would farm at night and hide during the day. The bombings were indiscriminate, and countless civilians were killed or maimed. The landscape was forever scarred, and the psychological trauma inflicted on the population was immense. This brutal reality was completely hidden from the American public and the rest of the world. The war was funded through secret budgets, and any questions in Congress were met with denials or evasive answers. As the Vietnam War raged on, the conflict in Laos escalated. The Hmong soldiers, armed and supported by the CIA, fought bravely against the Pathet Lao and North Vietnamese army units. They were skilled guerrilla fighters, using their knowledge of the jungle terrain to their advantage. At its peak, Vang Pao's secret army numbered over 30,000 soldiers, but they were paying a terrible price. An estimated 35,000 Hmong soldiers and countless civilians lost their lives. For the Hmong, this wasn't just a war. It was a fight for survival that decimated their population. By the early 1970s, the political tide in the United States was turning against the war in Southeast Asia. The Paris Peace Accords were signed in 1973, marking the official end of American involvement in Vietnam. This also spelled the end of the secret war in Laos. The US withdrew its support, pulling out the CIA advisors and cutting off the funding and supplies. For the Hmong and other allies who had fought alongside the Americans, this was a devastating betrayal. They were left to face the victorious Pathet Lao and their North Vietnamese allies alone. The Pathet Lao took control of the country in 1975, establishing the Lao People's Democratic Republic. What followed was a period of harsh retribution. The new communist government viewed the Hmong as traitors. Tens of thousands were sent to re-education camps, where many died from disease, starvation, or execution. Fearing for their lives, a massive exodus began. Hundreds of thousands of Hmong and other Lao refugees fled their homeland, embarking on a perilous journey across the Mekong River to seek asylum in Thailand. They lived in squalid refugee camps for years, hoping for a chance at a new life. Many eventually resettled in countries like the United States, France, and Australia, carrying with them the scars of a war that the world had never known. Even after the fighting stopped, the legacy of the secret war continued to haunt Laos. The country was left littered with unexploded ordnance, or UXO, cluster bombs, designed to break apart and scatter hundreds of smaller bomblets, were particularly devastating. Decades later, these bomblets remain live, hidden in rice paddies, forests, and villages. They act as hidden landmines, and every year, they continue to kill and injure innocent people, many of whom are children who mistake the small, metallic objects for toys. The slow, dangerous work of clearing this unexploded ordnance continues to this day, a deadly reminder of a secret past. The Secret War in Laos is a powerful story of political intrigue, incredible bravery, and profound tragedy. It reveals the hidden costs of covert operations and the devastating impact of war on ordinary people. For years, the sacrifices of the Hmong and other Lao allies were ignored, their story buried in classified documents. It wasn't until the late 1990s that the US government officially acknowledged the CIA's role and the contributions of its secret army. Today, we remember this hidden chapter of history, not just to understand the past, but to honor the courage of those who fought and the resilience of those who survived. It's a reminder that the official narratives of war often leave out the most important stories. Thanks for watching, and if you found this story as fascinating as I did, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more deep dives into forgotten history. See you next time.